have one funny challenge. Guess the airport that we have down here. What could it be? What could it be? Judging by the beach, judging by literal Hollywood Hills in the background, of course, this is Los Angeles International Airport. Well, it was Los Angeles International Airport 90 years ago. How fun it is that the Microsoft Flight Simulator lets us properly travel back in time. Because of the developers of Red Wing here for the Microsoft Flight Simulator, they have this interesting 1935 project where they recreate what airports used to look like in 1935. Pretty much all over the world. Here is, for example, LaGuardia, which was built in 1929 and used to look like this. Probably cleaner though than it is today. No, back then most airports did not have a asphalt runway even, because of course this was a time way before jets. And even Los Angeles International Airport didn't quite look like this. No, it had a small runway surface of only 2,000 feet barely. And once again, it's not really made of anything solid, really. Why? Because planes that flew around at that time didn't really need solid runways. I mean, I don't know why there's like proper airliners here on the ramp, but no, planes that flew around at the time of 1935 was maybe the DC-3, or especially the Ford tri-motor airplane. I mean, it would take 20 more years for jet airplanes to become a thing, you know, by 1935. I mean, look at how sparsely populated Los Angeles was back then. This must have been like a free area here. There was nothing here, except for the very, very small hangar building. This one was constructed in 1930. Let's see if we can use a modern airliner on old airports. Like, probably not. I mean, this runway does not have ILS per se, I reckon. Come on, let's take off. Now, we have some wooden airplanes here, which would have been the norm back then. Now, the A380 feels a little bit out of place, doesn't it? Okay, we are gonna crash into some palm trees. But hey, this has surprisingly worked. I mean, planes won't just fall apart because you land them on like a grass area, but landing gear maintenance will be quite frequent. Anyway, look at this right here. A big antenna, which is used for navigation. I think this is a VUR actually of some sort. Because of course, GPS didn't exist in 1935. It didn't exist for a very long time. Now, this is not very interesting. I would like to take a look at one of the first airports that even had an asphalt runway. Because, wow, yes, the tri-motor didn't really need an asphalt. Let's take a look at one. I mean, the first concrete paved runway was built in Clermont-Ferrand in France in 1916 already. And one airport that had an asphalt runway by 1935 already was Chicago Midway International Airport. Look at this. Yes, this was the main Chicago airport until O'Hare opened in 1955. Yes, everybody, welcome to the world's busiest airport of 1931. Yes, and in 1931, over 100,000 passengers flew through Midway International Airport. To put that number into perspective, the busiest airport in the world right now, which is Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta Airport, has 1,000 times the amount of passengers. 100 million. Right, so that is pretty crazy. Look at that, once again, asphalt runway, which are set up in this kind of star configuration. Why? Obviously, so that, you know, when the wind direction changes, you can land on either one of those runways, so you do, you know, take off and land only with headwind instead of like crosswind. That's very smart, and it's funny because Midway Airport kind of still looks like this. I mean, genuinely, the runway diagram literally looks like a riddle. Like the European mind could not comprehend this airport design. We would never build such a thing like this. We have like two runways that are like in a straight line. Anyway, the Microsoft Flight Simulator is visually very confused. Still thinks that there are some terminal buildings here, which is a little bit embarrassing. Anyway, this runway really isn't long at all either. Obviously, planes needed only a few hundred meters of runway, and longer runways than this didn't really exist at all. Planes were so much smaller and slower and could take off practically anywhere. I mean, the biggest planes back then were seaplanes anyway, you know. Let's see if we can take off here. Here we have some sort of a runway. I guess this is where the runway actually ends already. This airport is genuinely useless for our huge A380. Now, I mean, even if we were able to land here successfully, we wouldn't be able to fuel up. Obviously, Jet A fuel wasn't a thing back then, but let's try a landing indeed. Maybe here on one of the thousands of runways. Good. It's funny because there's still like some planes parked everywhere, and you can see how much the airport has grown over time in space. I mean, this square obviously is how much space the Midway Airport uses nowadays, and it's kind of quadruple quadrupled here, you know, in runway sizes. So that's very interesting. Let's go ahead and land successfully. Don't you worry, A380. You know, this plane has turned out to be quite reliable when landing on short runways. Look at that. We're coming in to one of the runways. I think it's funny how runways have especially changed over the years. I mean, of course, planes as well. But like, you didn't have markings back then. We didn't really have numbers back then, it seems like, either. Oh my god. Okay, you know what? Maybe this airport isn't as usable as I had thought for A380. That hasn't really worked. And we're done. Chicago Midway Airport. Wow, wow. Crashed into some houses. Anyway, here we have a hangar, which is also visibly confused. There's a Trilander in there, which is a plane that definitely didn't exist in 1935. Some hangars that would be deemed way too unusably small nowadays. Now, I had initially thought that this was a playground, but it seems like a service station for Star Engines, so that is great. I mean, it can be used as a playground for sure, with enough creativity. What is inside of this hangar? Oh, look, an amphibian one. I think you would call this an albatross airplane here. Look, some 1930 cars. Very nice. More hot rods. And what seems to be a fuel tanker? Look. Very small. This seems to be like storage Grey Goose from the vodka. Very interesting. Wow, this is also interesting. We've got a little house that has a light in it or something. And some airliner terminals, DC-3, flying service by Curtis Wright. Now, I don't seem to find like a control tower at all, which is interesting. I guess it would be a bit complicated to find out which runway is in use, you know? Is it this one or this one or that one? That must have ended in some very weird accidents, I'm pretty sure. Now, yet still by 1935, this airport was, you know, considered quite modern because it even had runway lighting. Barely. Is that the runway lighting that they're talking about? Oh, great. All right, they're literally the small houses there. That is what you consider a runway lighting. Yeah, no markings at all. This seems very safe. Very good. By the way, can we at least take off the A380 from here? I know we're running on full flaps. Doesn't really make a big difference, though, I'm pretty sure, because there's a Southwest 737 that has done time travelation. Okay, come on. I'm pretty sure we might have not hit too much. This is very safe. I mean, these runways here are barely 1,000 meters long. I think that's even too short for the 737, although that's a plane that's a little bit closer in terms of the timeline to 1935. I mean, 737 as a model flew in the 50s, kind of. Let's see. Come on, take off now. Right. No, absolutely impossible. Chicago! So yes, everybody, I think the Swiss Air One top tip of the day is don't use your airplane to time travel. Chances are these airports aren't really suitable for flying there properly. Maybe you can try time traveling in a Ford Trimotor. So everybody, thank you guys so much for watching this time traveling video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, good night. And a special thanks goes out to my members, my supporters: Guns Killer, R27, James DeRom, That Dude, Anime Gods of Gaming, Derek, Insider Plane, Nishijitsu Finder, Professional Jamal, Ryland Williams, and New the York. You've got beautiful names.